Arrival in Cromwell, late December 2023. The Five Go cycling team settled into accommodation in Lowburn. A very friendly host supplying whitebait and an endless supply of cherries. Approximately 155 kilometres of trail riding lay ahead. Picking up our three e-bikes at the Old Clyde railway station. First bridge crossing over the mighty Clutha. Celeste dawdling across the bridge while the car waited on the other side. There was a slight error of navigation when we turned right on the other side of the bridge instead of left to Alex. Alexandra, a few days before Christmas Day. This is where the trail turned inland towards Otago. This stretch of the trail from Alexandra turned out to be a challenge for Ian, one of two on manual bikes. It soon became clear he was heat stressed and struggling. We took turns on his bike before making finally Chateau Creek. Ian was pleased to get under the shade. Much refreshed, we made a beeline for our Omakau accommodation right beside the trail. After a good night's kip and a hearty breakfast, it was back on the trail. Four of us decided to take a side trip to the historic little settlement of Ophir, while M pressed on to Ranfurly to conserve his energy on another warm day. This 56-kilometre section also required a moderate climb. The sign suggested you walk your bikes through the tunnel. Brian, of course, decided that he would ride through and immediately hit the wall, scraping his knuckles against the bare rock. The historic Otago store and nearby the old Hayes Engineering Complex largely closed except for a little cafe selling ice blocks. With Ian somewhere far ahead of us, Celeste and Ben swapped bikes around with Bubble to give her a break on the push bike. When Brian finally got his chance to get on the bike, Celeste tried to hinder his progress, suggesting without saying he should stick to an e bike. Brian, however, evaded the barrier and took off until he was eventually out of sight. As the kilometres passed, Brian was surprised as he turned around at the end of each long straight to see nothing of the e bikers behind. As he pedalled at a decreasing pace through Wedderburn and beyond, began to worry he'd veered off the track. After about 20k and a sore ass, he was very pleased to see the first signs of Ranfurly. He soon caught up with the well settled inn in the overnight Ranfurly digs and learnt of a technical mishap with Ben's bike, and all three holed up in Wedderburn awaiting a replacement from She Bikes. Later that afternoon, as Brian was returning from the Four Square with items for dinner, by coincidence ran into the trio entering the outskirts of Ranfurly and able to lead the way to the house. Up bright and early, a look around Ranfurly, and next stop Hyde, almost on the homeward stretch, with clear skies ahead. In the middle of nowhere is this little pub. Despite looking closed and nobody around, we decided to at least look inside. It wasn't long before we were tucking into homemade pies. Plus, we took a swag of them with us for tea. Finally arrived at Hyde, and because there was no place to stay here, the bike company has a storage facility for the bikes and a vehicle to take us to our ultimate destination, Middlemarch, for the night. The idea was to drive back to where we left our bikes in the morning and resume our journey back to Middlemarch. Our overnight stay in Middlemarch, an older converted shop, but comfortable enough. After moving into our rooms, Ben and Brian decided to check out the quaint little Strath Tyree pub almost next door and suss out food and beers. It was clear from the moment we approached the barmaid was far from genial. It took a while to attract her attention, despite the fact there was nobody within Kui. The mention of food elicited a scowl and a point towards the blackboard menu. The relationship wasn't helped when Brian asked if there was anything else. Requesting a chilled glass got a frosty response, and in the finish, Ben and Brian ordered a beer, trying to look unperturbed. Thankfully, it was the only decent beer available in Emerson's. We didn't dally on the beers and exited soon after. We suggested to Celeste and Bubble not to bother with the pub, narrating our bad experience. Rather than being deterred, they both set off to see for themselves. They indicated later that their charm offensive had worked a treat and they had been treated like royals. Can't recall though whether they ordered food. The really big disappointment though was when we drove back to Hyde and accessed our bikes from the bike storage area. No amount of pumping could get Ian's bike tyre up, and we suspected it was something to do with the valve. It was with heavy hearts Ben, Celeste, and Brian left Hyde for the final leg of the trail to Middlemarch. Ian and Bubble stuck at the bike shelter until the company came and got them to the same destination. As Ian's bike was his own, there would not be a replacement unless he wanted to pay. Meanwhile, the three on the trail passed the site of New Zealand's second worst rail crash on this curve due to excessive speed. The memorial to this 1943 crash, which left 21 dead and 47 injured. Sadly, families featured in the fatalities, including three whites. Let the celebrations begin. It was somewhat of a shock to see Ian and Bubble nonchalantly riding down the main street of Middlemarch, less than half an hour after us. Despite being in the middle of nowhere, apart from a few birds and the odd car passing, by a pure fluke, salvation had come out of nowhere. Salvation in the form of an older couple on bikes off the trail. Not only that, armed with every tool known to cycling, and quickly fixed Ian's seemingly fatal problem. And despite being on manual bikes, both Ian and Bubble made very good time behind us. The five Otago rail trail cyclists finally together in the end. and by afternoon on the journey to Hamden, north of Dunedin. Is it rain out there?
It's really cool backyard. I've got a whole veggie garden. It's really cool. What are you just watching? Reading? I don't know, some rain, the mold make it rain.
Well, there we are.
Ooh, how good photos. God. You doing a video? You do videos on that.
Yeah.
Oh no. So
This is perfect YouTube material.
Wait, video. Please do that.
Straight to internet. Ben's gonna go viral.
Oh,
COVID.
If he doesn't get COVID.
just about put a peanut in my wine.
Wow, he's a big baby. I think I could do better than that guy.
You reckon?
That's how it works, for sure. Do it very rarely and they'll heap praise on you. Make you feel special. And basically all you've done is just thrown a couple of things together. Put just
Space. It's a country. Yeah, it's true actually.
what is that funny smell? Is it the pie?
The funny pie smell.
It's the pie.
Let's do a big cheers.
We should get one on a cell phone.
Right, ready? 1, 2, 3.
Cheese.
No, not cheese.
Sorry,
Cheers.
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 Where's the glasses in there? Oh, okay. Good.
Cheers.
Well done.